Hey guys, Andrew Shrout. I'm here on the sideboard. I'm here with Jeff Hoogland, one of the at-large competitors here at the Players Championship.
Excited to be here.
And excited to have you here. And we're here to talk about your standard deck, the old Hooglebroogle. Unfortunately, the joke doesn't work since your name's actually pronounced Hoogland, but I'm sticking to that joke. But the Hooglebroogle of the week, actually the Hooglebroogle of last week.
Correct.
Yep. Team or mid-range. This is a deck that you actually top-8'd the Standard Open last week in Seattle with.
Yep. Earlier in the season, I also won the Indiana States with a variation of it as well.
Mm-hmm. So, team or a deck, an archetype that you've been playing basically from day one of this standard format.
Yep.
So, kind of walk us through. We'll go card by card, just kind of cover the points of the cards here in the mid-range deck.
Okay, well, we start off with our very essential mana guys in the deck. It's really important to not only be able to cast your spells on time, but also cast them ahead of curve a lot of the time. And the mana guys allow you to do both of that. You'll notice in this particular variation that I'm playing, we're not playing any Elvish Mystics, and that's because we're really not looking to power out the 3 drops ahead of time. Courser on turn 3 without playing a land is almost as good as Courser on turn 2.
Okay. So your mana guy is just the 4 Caryatids and 3 Rattleclaw Mystics.
Yep, I think playing more than 7 is kind of a mistake right now because it's very miserable to peel mana guys in the late game, so you kind of want to mitigate that as much as possible.
So avoid having too much air.
Yep.
All right, and so instead you just have giant animals.
So this is our slide of ferocious guys. We have 11 ferocious enablers in the deck, and these guys are Savage Knuckleblade and Stormbreath Dragon especially, I think, are very well positioned because of their abilities. Savage Knuckleblade in his pile of text has his bounce ability to allow him to protect himself, and then Stormbreath Dragon is able to dodge a lot of removal, like Chain to the Rocks and other things like that.
So protection from white and protection from things that only deal 3 damage.
Yep.
Kind of, that covers most of the removal spells in the format.
Yeah, definitely. And Polukranos is just one of the best things you can be doing on turn 3 in this format with your mana guys.
All right. And then we have some kind of more mid-rangey threats, and then kind of a marquee removal spell.
Yeah, so Heir of the Wilds is a card that comes and goes in other people's builds of this deck, and I think it's a really important card to be playing right now. And that's because the worst draws with the Teamer mid-range deck are the ones where you don't do anything until turn 3. And Heir of the Wilds is a strong, proactive turn 2 play that isn't a mana guy. So it allows you to have less air in the late game, but still have a large number of turn 2 plays that are proactive.
Okay. And then 4 Crater's Claws. I noticed that you called the previous slide the ferocious slide.
Yep. So these are some of our cards that our ferocious guys are enabling. Crater's Claws is just phenomenal. Being able to play 4 main deck fireballs in this format allows you to get out of situations where you normally just wouldn't be able to.
Okay. And then the one of Reclamation Sage. This is a small tournament. It's a very precise field. So is this a metagame call? So
Reclamation Sage is attributed to the fact that I expect to play against both Whip decks and Blue-White Heroic. And one of the cards that really matters in the Blue-White Heroic matchup is Aqueous Form. So if you're able to only let them get in 1 crack with Aqueous Form before you Reclamation Sage it, that's very valuable.
Okay. And then a little bit of spice.
So the Stubborn Denial, I think Stubborn Denial and Savage Knuckleblade are the 2 main reasons to be playing Teamer as opposed to straight red-greens. The power level of both of these cards is off the charts. Stubborn Denial is at a great place in the format right now where, in addition to being phenomenal as a 1-mana negate, a 1-mana Force Spike is often fantastic on the first few turns of the game. You get to catch Jeskai Ascendancies as well as Hordling Outbursts with it. If you're on the play, you get to catch Thoughtseize with it occasionally as well, which is great. Then we have a Miser Dig Through Time and Force Away. And the one of Dig Through Time is kind of a way to both offer utility in finding our one-ofs like Reclamation Sage and Force Away, as well as providing additional threat density with that utility. Force Away is an attribute to the fact that I'm expecting at least 2 of the other competitors to be playing Blue-White Heroic, and having an unsummon type effect is the best way that these colors have to deal with a 10-10.
Okay, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And then the last spell, 2 Teamer Charm.
2 Teamer Charm. So Teamer Charm is a card, I was originally playing 4 of this card in a lot of my early builds of the deck, but I feel like its overall power level has come down a little bit as the format shifted to be a little bit more aggressive. But the big reason I really like at least some number of Teamer Charm in the main deck is its flexibility. And the big reason is its last ability, the Falter effect, allows you to attack through a resolved Hornet Queen to get through those last few points of damage. So you kind of have 6 pieces of reach with your 4 Fireballs and 2 Teamer Charms in that matchup.
All right. We'll talk a little bit about the mana base, because I know that's kind of a point of contention. You talked about like Teamer versus red-green being something that people have kind of been debating. I think the mana base is a big part of that.
Yep.
We have 2 temples that we can see here.
Then we have a 3rd temple as well as 4 of the bivouacs to round out our tapped lands. One of the big things I'm doing this weekend that I haven't done in the past is because I'm not playing any Elvish Mystics in the mana guys, we're able to play more tapped lands and not really be punished for that fact.
Okay.
That being said, we're still only playing 7 tapped lands, which is on average 2 to 4 less tapped lands than a lot of the other decks in the format are playing. So we're able to just play our spells on curve more often than they are to kind of overpower them.
All right. And then 1 Mana Confluence, 4 Yavimaya Coast, and 3 Chivalry, 4 Wooded Foothills, so plenty of untapped duels as well.
Yeah, definitely.
So this lets you kind of make the 2-drop mana guy that actually gets the kind of the chain going.
Correct, and the great thing is about this deck versus a lot of other ones is because we're playing 7 mana guys, our pain lands don't hurt us as much as they would in, say, Abs and Midrange or something like that.
All right. Before we get a look at the sideboard, let's talk a little bit about what put you on this deck to begin with. I know we mentioned this is a deck you've been playing for a long time in Standard.
Yep, I've been playing Teamer almost since the format rotated, and I just really think that having a powerful proactive strategy in this current Standard format is the best thing to be doing. You should be the deck asking questions, not the one providing answers to have the best position.
All right. And then speaking of kind of asking the questions, this is a very small tournament, as we mentioned earlier.
Yep.
Tell me a little about your preparation in terms of like what you expect to face. I know this is again small field. You know a lot of these guys.
So I was testing with a couple of friends that aren't in this tournament for this event, and we had a spreadsheet going and for what we expected other people to be playing. And the honest answer for Standard is we don't really know. Like other than the blue-white heroic decks, I think the reason why this Standard format is so sweet compared to a lot of the ones in the past is just everything is a fine choice if you're playing it well and you're playing it at a high level.
Okay.
And I like the Teamer deck because it's both a little bit under the radar, which means because less people have been playing it, so less people will be prepared to interact with how I'm playing the deck.
Okay. All right. So we'll take a look at the sideboard. We'll basically just go card by card. See what's up.
So Disdainful Stroke and Anger of the Gods are 2 cards that allow us to kind of board into a more controlling deck when we need to. And the main deck we want to do that against is the Whip decks with Hornet Queens. Resolve's Hornet Queen is very difficult for this deck to beat outside from fireballing them out of the game. Okay. So in post-board games against the Queen Whip decks, a lot of the times we board into this Anger of the Gods and Disdainful Strokes as well as a second dig-through time that we'll see in a minute to kind of assume a more controlling role in the matchup.
Okay.
So you kind of, stick your one threat and then play Protect the Queen while you answer their things.
All right. And then Anger of the Gods, we're just sweeping things.
Yep. Anger of the Gods is great. You play Anger of the Gods to beat the Queen in the DC decks, but it's also there as a hedge against the mono-red decks in the format.
Okay.
One important point that I like to bring up, because I get a lot of questions about, is that I don't like boarding in Anger of Gods against the blue-white heroic deck.
Okay.
And the reason for that is the way that matchup generally plays out is you lose that matchup by them having one giant creature, not them going wide to beat you.
Sure.
So because you have as many guys as well, I don't think Anger of the Gods is very good against the heroic deck.
Okay. And then next we have Force Away. I know you kind of pre-boarded 1.
Correct, yeah, and that's exactly what it is. I basically pre-boarded 1 Force Away and 1 Reclamation Sage for the format that I'm expecting to play, and it's just a very powerful effect. Okay. In addition to getting to come in against the heroic deck, I also think Force Away is reasonable against like the Mardu deck, because if they're sacking a guy to their Butcher of the Horde and then you make them pick it up, it's a huge tempo swing.
Sure, okay. Reclamation Sage, another one that we saw in the main deck.
Yep, again, it's great for against the Constellation and the Whip decks, and it's another way to kill Resolved Aqueous Form.
Okay, and then some burn.
So Stoke the Flames is primarily there for the Stormbreath Dragon Mirror matches, as well as Butcher of the Horde. Butcher of the Horde is a card that, unless you have a dragon on the table on defense, is just impossible to race, so you want at least 6 ways to answer it with the claws and the Stokes post board.
All right. Arc Lightning, I assume we're killing little things with it.
Yep, it's a good mop-up Rebel Master in the token it makes. And then just, supplemental copies of cards we're playing in the main deck. When Stubborn Denial is good, you want to draw as many copies as you can. It's great against the removal-heavy decks. It's also great against the heroic deck because, again, they have so few cards that actually matter, countering the ones that do as big game.
All right. Well, cool. It's clear that that you've put your laps in with this deck.
Yep, I've been playing the deck a lot, and again, I think because there's so many decks that are viable in the format, being comfortable with the deck that you're playing is a big advantage.
Yeah, for sure. All right, well, thanks for coming in and kind of talking through it with us. Stick around. We've got plenty more coverage coming of the Players' Championship here in Roanoke.